Hello everyone. I am coming up with a complete free, quality and exam oriented economic survey 2020 and 2021. Economic survey is very important for prelims 2021 as well as in mains also. We will be getting some points which we have to use in the mains answer writing. In the mains GS, 3 answers of economy. Economy survey never we have to neglect, never. Economy survey is most important concept. Economic survey is most important concept. Without economic survey, UPSC prelims and UPSC mains preparation is incomplete. Yes. Without economic survey, we are nowhere we are going to go in the preparation of UPSC. And now I am going to discuss about this economic survey. 2 volumes I am going to discuss, volume 1 and volume 2. Incomplete, in a complete way. And the content also will be provided in the Telegram channel, in our Telegram channel. The Telegram channel link will be provided in our description, in the video description. So this is the beginning of economic survey 2020 and 2021. So volume 1 and volume 2 volumes are there, and today I am going to discuss about volume 1 chapter 1. Saving lives and livelihoods amidst in once in a century crisis, and the crisis is, you know that, which each and every individual in the world suffered because of this, that is the pandemic coronavirus, COVID-19. So the volume 1, unit 1 mainly deals about how the India was being affected because of coronavirus and what are the steps taken by the government of India in order to come out of this pandemic. That everything deals under the chapter 1. So chapter 1 of volume 1 mainly deals about the coronavirus, its pandemic, its impact and the consequence and the steps taken by the government to come out of it. Biologically means to come out of the disease, to come out of the communicable disease, as well as the economical steps taken by the government to come out of the lockdown which was imposed because to stop the coronavirus. So the first unit which I am going to discuss about, yes, economic survey 2020 and 2021. Economic survey is a flagship economic document of any country, the flagship economic document. And India's flagship economic document which will be released by the Ministry of Finance is economic survey document. And this economic survey document mainly talks about the progress, the economic status of the country in the last 1 year. So 2020, April 1st onwards to the March 31st with some months of prediction, February and March month predictions, we will be having the report of economic survey 2020 and 2021. By the Ministry of Finance. It gives a detailed account of the various sectors of the economy and overall economic scenario of the country in the past years and provides an outline of the year ahead. Increasingly, it has also become a forum for analysis and research on the economy and it's also a source of policy ideas. It also gives the policy ideas, how we need to move on, how we can make the country stronger economically, the solutions, the problems, the ideas will be provided in this economic survey. This is the introduction of economic survey. It will be made by the Economic Division of the Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance. So prelims point of view, who will make the budget document, who will make the economic survey document means Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance. Under the overall guidance of Chief Economic Advisor, under the guidance of Chief Economic Advisor to the Ministry of Finance. After receiving inputs from the senior officers in the Ministry of Finance, the final version of the economic survey is scrutinized by the Finance Secretary and finally approved by the Union Finance Minister, hence the economic survey document. So 2 volumes we are having. The economic survey 2020 and 2021 is having 2 documents. One document is called as volume 1, another document is called as volume 2. So volume 1 document talks about future prospect, how we have to overcome the problems. What are the steps taken by the government for the solutions, for the problems? Is future prospect is volume 1 and volume 2 is report card in the previous year. So original economic survey means the report card of the previous year. What are the problems, what are the facts, what are the figures, how the steps taken by the government, whether the steps taken by the government in the previous year are successful or not. These all things will be there in the volume 2, and in the volume 1 there will be future prospect. Intent of the government and direction of future planning, how the future planning should be there of the government. So my dear students, I want to tell you that first you understand that economic surveys have two volumes. Volume 1 talks about the future prospect. So what are the future aspects? These points which we are going to get from the volume 2 will be very much useful. Volume 1 will be very much useful in mains answer writing, and the volume 2 is very much useful in the prelims. So please read two volumes, volume 1 and volume 2. So volume 2 is the facts and figures with respect to the earlier progress card, which is important for prelims point of view, and volume 1 mainly will talk about the future prospect, which is very important for mains point of view. So the economic survey consists of two volumes. So in the first unit, the introduction which was been given is saving a life that is in jeopardy in the origin of the dharma. So the dharma is nothing but saving the people who are in jeopardy. Like because of coronavirus, people's health was being affected. Economy they lost, the working they lost, the jobs they lost, the economy fallen down, the jobs fallen down, the labor is not working properly. So there is a need for a hand, and that hand is called as dharma according to the unit 1 of volume 1. The foundational theme of the survey is saving lives and livelihoods against coronavirus. The Economic Survey 2020 has been dedicated to all the COVID-19 warriors who have really helped in upholding India. COVID-19 warriors, mainly health workers, doctors, nurses. These people are the COVID-19 warriors who fought. Not only those people, the common citizens who were wearing the mask, shields, PPE kits. Those are also called as COVID-19 shields, COVID-19 warriors. Saving lives and livelihoods, COVID warriors joined hands to uphold India, to support India, to make India the superpower, biologically, physically, without any disease, without any impact, without any death at all. If you see the Italy at the times of the beginning in the month of April 2020, USA, people wondered because of the deaths which are happening in Italy, the deaths which are happening in USA, the deaths which are happening in Iran, but India was being standstill because of the very proper successful implementation of lockdown. V-shaped economic recovery. Opportunities outweigh risk. Why? Because earlier it was been growing and fallen down, and again it had a recovery, V-shape. If this is the thing, we have been growing and we fallen down like anything, again we started recovering. This is the V-shaped recovery of the economy. These are the 4 points. The total economic survey surrounds around. The cover of the economic survey shows these COVID-19 warriors, including nurses, doctors, scientists who have helped in developing the vaccine in record time, and sanitation workers who have come together in the time of adversity to uphold. Yesterday also we saw in the news Prime Minister of India, the Vice President of India, they took the vaccination. Yes, it's a good sign. The cover also shows V-shaped recovery that has happened in the Indian economy. See, we've fallen down and we've grown up. This is Y-axis. We've fallen down completely and again we raised up. This is the V-shaped recovery which happened with India. This year's economic survey is being delivered in an e-book, prelims point of view. It is not in the traditional form of an hard copy, it is an electronic book format. The Finance Minister also launched an official economic survey app for smooth access to the document. So digitalized. Economic survey is digitalized. India's response to the global epidemic was driven by research available on the Spanish flu epidemic. So the same such epidemic happened in a century. Earlier it was Spanish flu epidemic, which happened in 1918, and now again we had in 2020. So what are the steps taken at the time of Spanish flu epidemic? The similar sort of steps were being taken in coronavirus times also. And Nobel Prize winning Hansen and Sargent policy recommendations during high uncertainty, worst case scenario, prioritizing loss minimization. So this too we followed. India followed how they addressed the pandemic or epidemic of Spanish flu which happened in Europe, and the steps which are being mentioned by the Hansen and Sargent. If there is any emergency situations, how we need to be resilient. So we adopted from Spanish flu and Hansen Sargent. It was philosophically and ethically driven by the quote mentioned above and the idea of "Hum hai to jahan hai." Means what? If we leave, then there will be world. If we don't leave, then the world is for whom? So it's important to protect the lives of the people. Hum hai to jahan hai. The strategy also kept in mind India's unique vulnerabilities to the pandemic, which are as follows. We are very vulnerable because of what? Huge Indian population, huge density. Dharavi, slum, if one family get affected, no, the total Dharavi will be affected. Why? Because of the density of the people who are living in the slums, mainly the slums like Dharavi of Mumbai. Huge Indian population meant a disease would spread at a higher pace. We are very much vulnerable. The total world was been worried of India. What will happen if the communicable, if it spreads quicker, then what will be the solution? The world, not only India, the world was also worried about India. Why? Because our geography is only 2.4. But our population is 17.6% of the world population, and our geography is only 2.4% of the geography of the world. So if India is affected, means world 17% population got affected and the area is less, hence the spread will be very quicker. High population density at the bottom of the pyramid, would increase spread risk. Why? Because most of the people in India are living in the bottom of the pyramid. Their impact, their effect will be more. High absolute numbers of India's vulnerable aged population are also more. So aged population are more vulnerable for the coronavirus. Overburdened health infrastructure would cause supply-demand mismatch, increasing fatalities. I experienced it personally because of absence of oxygen cylinders in government hospitals and private hospitals also. So people who have been suffering with coronavirus, they died because of absence of treatment, that is true. So these are the 4 vulnerabilities India was been experiencing because of corona in India according to the coronavirus. We can expect this question. What are the 4 vulnerabilities mentioned by the economic survey because of coronavirus? These are the 4 vulnerabilities. The only strategy that seemed viable for containment of the pandemic was active surveillance, early detection, isolation and case management, contact tracing, and prevention of onward spread by practicing social distancing and safety precautions. Yes. By taking safety precautions. Various non-pharmaceutical interventions such as lockdowns, closure of schools and non-essential business, travel restrictions were therefore adopted by countries across the globe. This were able to slow down the transmission of infection or flatten the epidemic curve. No growth, so flatten the epidemic curve. So there will not be any spread. That was a target. And by the healthcare system some time to handle the surge in demand for its services and for development of an effective treatment and vaccine. Yes. These were the strategies in order to control the epidemic. So this was the curve area, global trend in COVID-19 spread and case fatality rates according to World Health Organization report as on 31st December 2020. See, the cases rapidly increased here. So like this, the cake slowly it became neutralized. Daily new cases in lakhs. Constraints unique to India, the unique constraints to India according to the economic survey. There were certain constraints which were unique to India, like first one. The first is, as the pace of spread of pandemic depends upon network effects, a huge population inherently enables a higher pace of spread. Huge population, as I told you earlier. Second, as a pandemic spreads by human contact, high population density. Yes, second. Third, average age is low, means aged people are more. So there is high vulnerability. Fourth, overburdened health infrastructure. The same topic is again. Supply demand, means no supply of treatments, health infrastructure. Flattening of the curve spreads the pandemic over time, enabling more people to receive proper health treatment, ultimately lowering the fatality rate. Black swan event, this is very important. Black swan event. What is this black swan event? We can expect in the prelims. Hedging during black swan event for worst outcome initially and updating response gradually via feedback to break the chain of spread before it reaches community transmission. Black swan event. We have to stop it. So stopping the worst outcome initially and updating response gradually via feedback to break the chain of spread and before it reach community. Yes, black swan treatment. Hidden treatment. Knowing, breaking the chain of spread, which is called as black swan treatment. Black swan event. Breaking the chain of spread and no more community transmission. That was the called as black swan event, which was been a strategy adopted by the India. 5T strategies involving test, tracking, tracing, treatment and technology. Hotspot and containment zones were identified across India and districts classified into red, yellow and green zones based on number of cases and other parameters. Yes. This is the story of coronavirus according to the economy survey. How we addressed it by dividing them into zones: red, yellow, green, no problem, yellow, yes, stop, red, no more, 100% containment zone. Black swan is an unpredictable event that is beyond what is normally expected of a situation and has potentially severe consequences. They characterized by their extreme rarity, severe impact and the widespread insistence they were obvious in insight. Black swan, without any notion, without any idea, the spread, if it happens, it is called as black swan. Blindly, if the spread is happening, that is called as black swan event. Human transmission is spreading, community transmission is happening, so we need to stop it. So black swan means a huge impact, sudden impact, without any knowledge if the impact is increasing, and at the same time without the knowledge of the people also, we need to cut the chain of human transmission. This is called as black swan. Unpredictable, unprecedented spread is called as black swan without the event. India imposed the most stringent lockdown at the very onset of the pandemic. This enabled a flattening of the pandemic curve and thereby provided the necessary step to ramp up health and testing infrastructure. India adopted a strategy of Bayesian updating to continually calibrate its response while gradually unlocking and easing economy. Gradually easing the economic activity. Stringency index for states in India was developed to track implementation of lockdown. Black swan event, I expected this question. It is an unpredictable event that is beyond what is not. We didn't expect that this much the lockdown will happen. That is called as black swan event. Unexpectedly, if the event is happening, it is called as black swan event. Unexpected means unknowingly, means hidden, and potentially have severe consequences. They characterized by their extreme rarity. Bhopal gas tragedy is also called as black swan event. They didn't thought when it happened in 1984. Today also in Bhopal, the people belongs to that area are suffering with genetical diseases. Methyl isocyanate, a huge severe consequences, unpredictable consequences is called as black swan event. So we need to stop it. We stopped it. India was successful in stopping it. See, it was the curve earlier. It was the curve, so slowly with the protective measures and lockdown, social distancing, we flattened the curve. Flattening the curve provides valuable time to ramp up testing and treatment facilities. Lowering the peak lowers the mortality by avoiding overloading of health systems. Suddenly, see, this is the growth level of the cases. Suddenly it became, again we made it into a flattening as a curve. Time since first case, yes. Flattening the curve. COVID pandemic affected both demand and supply. The world economy is estimated to contract in 2020 by 4.3% as per World Bank and 3.5% as per IMF. This recession is highly synchronized as a fraction of economies experiencing annual declines in national per capita is highest since 1870. More than 90%, even higher than proportion of about 85% of the countries in recessions at the height of the Great Depression of 1930-32. Thus, it is rightly been called as, how it is called as Great Recession, now it is called as Great Lockdown. The term is called as Great Lockdown. Lockdown of the economy. Lockdown of the economy for its growth. No more growth of the economy. The economy was being locked down. Because of the economy was being locked down, we are seeing the severe economic downfall according to the economic survey. But good thing is, our economy started growing. V-shaped economic recovery due to timely stringent. There has been 23.9% contraction in GDP in Q1. The recovery has been a V-shaped one as seen in the 7.5% decline in Q2 and the recovery across all key economic indicators. So, the growth is V-shaped. Yes. Demand shock. Two twin economic shocks by the pandemic. One is demand side shock, other is supply side shock. Demand side shock means people doesn't have the money to put investment. Where I have to put them? Everywhere the economy was been zero. Reduced investment due to increase in future uncertainty. No demand only. Reduction in consumption due to wage or income loss. Reduction in consumption. If I buy, then the market will move. When I am not ready to buy, when I am not ready to consume, then the market, how it will run? Reduced consumption, reduced investments, reduced demand for non-essential due to social distancing and precautionary savings. Yes, reduced demand for non-essential, like movies, non-essential elements, total reduction. So this demand side shock. Supply side shock. Labor supply shock, inability to work from home in non-essential industries. Yes. Work from home in non-essential industries. No. Disruption in supply chain linkages because of no more movement of the trucks. Transport was been totally standstill. No more movement of the supplies. So supply side shock and demand side shock. These are the twin economic shocks by the pandemic, which is mentioned by the Economic Survey of 2020 and 2021. The pandemic-induced lockdowns led to local, regional and global supply disruptions hitting economic activity, rendering a first-order supply shock. This in turn has led to a demand shock both through disruptions in the labor market, which affect household income, and through the precautionary motive to save, which stemmed from the uncertainty amidst the V-shaped economic recovery. Strongly correlates with the stringency of the lockdown. This elevates concern that the inference about the impact of the lockdown is due to any co-founding factors peculiar to India, such as higher levels of immunity, BCG vaccination. Stringency index at the state level survey show that the under or over performance in cases and deaths correlates strongly with the stringency of the lockdown, because of which the economy fall down, and immediately after the lockdown the economy was been recovered like anything. Quicker recovery happened with India, hence we call it as V recovery. Accordingly, data for lockdown efficiency in various states has been collected. Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat and Bihar have restricted the case spread the best. These were the successful. Police were been beating at the time. Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat and Bihar. Kerala, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh have saved the most lives by that well treatment. Maharashtra has underperformed the most in restricting the spread of cases and in saving lives. Today also the Maharashtra is suffering. The survey infers that the lockdown had a casual impact on the saving lives and the economic recovery. Yes, the survey infers that the lockdown had a causal impact on the saving lives and the economic. Physical response, and how the government responded to this economically, physically, financially, how it responded. The physical policy response of the government of India to the pandemic was accordingly strategized with a step-by-step approach. During the first 2 quarters of fiscal year 2020 and 2021, the government ensured that funds for essential activities were available despite a sharp contraction in revenue receipts. The initial approach was to provide a cushion for the poor and section of society and to the business sector, especially the MSME sector. So government thought, now I need to concentrate on bottom of the pyramid. On the bottom of the pyramid. First the focus should be the bottom of the pyramid. MSME sector, the labor, the working class, the middle class. So government started bothering about them. Main focus was on MSME sector. Then Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana was used for ensuring food security through public distribution system, direct benefit transfers to widows, pensioners and women, additional funds for Narega, and debt moratorium and liquidity support for business. These are the steps which are taken in Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. In the third quarter, the government transited in a calibrated fashion to support investment and consumption demand through Atmanirbhar 2.0 and 3.0. These are the physical measures taken by the government of India. What are the structural reforms? This is called as physical reforms. This is called as structural reforms. How the structural reforms happen? National infrastructure pipeline. So government understood that infrastructure is totally lowered. We need to emphasize more on infrastructure sector. So government came up with a national infrastructure pipeline. A slew of structural reforms were announced together. This would help to expand supply significantly in the medium to long term. On the demand side, at the onset of the pandemic, India's policies focused purely on necessities. During the unlock phase, demand-side measures have been announced in a collaborated manner. A public investment program centered around the national infrastructure pipeline is likely to accelerate this demand push and further the recovery. Mainly, national infrastructure pipeline. So, infrastructure sector will be boosted up. So, with the infrastructure boosting up, the employment in construction of the infrastructure will take place. So, employment generation will happen, infrastructure development will happen, obviously the investment will come and the boosting of the economy will take place. So, first structural reform is national infrastructure pipeline. This caused underheating of the economy with lack of demand, disruption of supply chains, anticipated large-scale corporate distress because of what? Coronavirus, COVID-19, underheating, everything is heating inside, no economy, no movement of the logistics, lack of demand, lack of supply. Simple reflating of the economy through increased government expenditure would, under these circumstances, have led to a runaway inflation, especially given the inherent supply side constraints in India's food economy. Therefore, India initiated a slew of multi-sectoral supply side structural reforms to lend flexibility and resilience to supply chains as a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat mission, which is mainly called as self-resilient India. Self-resilient. So, Atmanirbhar Bharat mission is one and national infrastructure pipeline is. So, major structural reforms taken by the government of India to come out of this downturn in agriculture sector. The farming laws, 3 farming laws very much in use, protest, international outcry, Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act 2020, Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement of Price Assurance and Farm Service Act 2020, Essential Commodities Amendment Act 2020. These are the 3. Deregulation and liberalization of sectors, mainly agriculture sector. This is one structural reform which was being made. Other reforms include the modified definition of MSME. Yes, the definition of MSME was being modified. Facilitates expansion and growth of this enterprise without them fearing the loss of government incentives. What is the modified definition of MSME? I will be discussing in the volume number 2 in detail in the unit of MSME. Thereby avoiding the phenomenon of dwarf among MSMEs. Among MSMEs, the becoming smaller. MSME should not become smaller. The MSME should not become disappeared. So the government took necessary steps to protect the MSME sector. MSME sector is the oxygen for the Indian larger public, for the Indian economy, for the Indian masses. The resulting economies of scale can enhance productivity without the MSMEs losing out on several government incentives, including interest subvention. Means in the interest, the discount will be provided by the banks through central government initiatives. Collateral free loans without any guarantee, free loans will be without any guarantees, loans will be provided. Market support will be there. Export promotions happens. Preferential procurement in the public sector, enabling of IT ecosystem. For any public sector undertaking, MSMEs will be the priority to procure the labor reforms, which is pending since long pending labor reforms happened because of this COVID-19 structural reforms. Discussed for 3 decades after the conditionality in the 1991 loan from IMF, but never implemented thus far. Will benefit MSMEs to increase employment, enhance labor productivity and thereby wages in. The use of full-time equivalence provides flexibility to MSMEs to tailor their labor strength to market conditions and thereby enhance employment. So what I want to tell you that these are some of the structural reforms which are taken by the government of India, mainly labor reforms, farming loans, farming laws and MSME sector. The drastic reduction in compliance stemmed from 41 central laws being reduced to 4. Now we have only 4 labor laws. 41 labor laws will be there, which has been reduced to just 4 labor laws. Structural reforms. That is a good sign for the industries to put investment. Why? Because there is no numerous labor laws. The number of sections falling from about 1200 to 1480. The number of minimum wages being reduced from about 2000 to 40. 1 registration instead of 6. 1 license instead of 4. The reforms in agriculture markets will enable creation of one India, one market for agriculture products. create innumerable opportunities for farmers to move up the value chain in food processing from farm to fork, create jobs and increase incomes. Yes, structural reforms. Privatization of public sector enterprises in non-strategic sectors recognizes the need for efficient allocation and use of resources. This would in turn lead to inclusive growth and sustained demand generation in the economy, like Vizag Steel, LIC. The policy package ensures that the regulatory environment is conducive to ease of doing business with simpler, transparent and time-bound procedures for doing business. These are all the structural reforms you have to remember for your mains and prelims also. What are the structural steps taken by the government of India to come out of the economic downturn because of coronavirus? Number 2, what are the fiscal steps taken by the government of India to come out of the COVID-19? Yes, these are all the steps you need to mention. Conclusion. Despite the hard-hitting economic shock created by the global pandemic, India has witnessed a V-shaped recovery. With a stable macroeconomic situation aided by a stable currency, yes, our economy did not fail. Comfortable current account, burgeoning foreign exchange reserves, and encouraging signs in the manufacturing sector output, India is reaping the lockdown dividend. From the brave preventive measures adopted at the onset of the pandemic, which were based on the humane principles advocated eloquently in the Mahabharata, that saving a life that is in jeopardy is the origin of dharma. So the country was been failing, the country was been dying, the country was in jeopardy, and the dharma of the leaders of the country is to protect the nation, and they did successfully. That is the conclusion of the Economic Survey Unit number 1. So Economic Survey Volume 1 Unit 1 mainly talks about coronavirus, its curve of the cases, what are the steps taken, physical steps, and the structural reforms taken in order to come out of the COVID pandemic economically. That is the Unit 1. The next is Unit number 2. Be ready. Yes, Chapter 2, Volume 1, mainly about debt. It mainly talks about debt. Does growth lead to debt sustainability? Yes, but not vice versa. Means whether growth is leading to debt sustainability, whether debt sustainability is leading to growth. Debt, how much we are borrowing is debt. So the borrowing amount is sustainable or not, means whether we are in a position to pay them back in principal and interest. So the second volume talks about the growth and the debt sustainability of India. Mahakavi Kalidasa's Raghuvamsham, in that the state collects tax for the greater welfare of its citizens in the same way as the sun evaporates water, only in return it manifold in the form of rain. Yes. So the state will be collecting the taxes to distribute among the people. In the same way, sun evaporates the water in order to distribute in the form of rain. So any question on tax, you can start with this. As the COVID-19 pandemic has created a significant negative shock to demand, active fiscal policy, one that recognizes that physical multipliers are disproportionately higher during economic crisis than during economic booms, can ensure that the full benefit of seminal economic reforms is reaped by limiting potential damage to productive capacity. Yes, we need to have a very great reforms so that the economy should not be failed. It's about the requirement of structural reforms, physical reforms needed at the times of emergencies. The chapter mainly clearly establishes the growth which is happening leads to debt sustainability in Indian context, but not necessarily vice versa. So if growth is happening, yes, obviously the debt will be reducing, the debt will become sustainable. But if debt sustainability happens, never, means if you stop borrowing it never leads to growth increase. So growth if increases, debt will be controlled. But if debt is controlled, it is not sure that the growth is controlled. So growth is also related to debt. It doesn't mean that we have to stop the debt for increasing the growth. By stopping debt, the growth will not happen. So we can take the debt in the emergency situations like this now the nation is facing. This is because the interest rate on debt paid by the Indian government has been less than India's growth rate by norm, not by exception. The chapter studies the evidence across several countries to show that growth causes debt to become sustainable in countries with higher growth. Growth causes debt to become sustainable in countries with higher growth rates. We have observed wherever the higher growth rate is happening, there the debts are becoming sustainable. Why fiscal policy should the Indian government adopt? Pro-cyclical or counter-cyclical? Pro-cyclical or counter-cyclical? There is a question. So what type of fiscal policy the government of India should adopt? Whether it is pro-cyclical or counter-cyclical? Pro-cyclical fiscal policy is the one which goes in line with the current mood of the economy. Means if the economy is growing, then the expenditure will be increased. That is called as pro-cyclical. For example, see, during the time of an economic boom, the government makes high expenditure. Why? Because they have the money, and also does not increase its tax. Why? Because already money is there with the government. So what is the necessity to increase the taxes? This further amplifies the boom. This further increases the boom. But well, during an economic slump, the government reduces expenditure, increases tax to improve its revenue. Understand this. Pro-cyclical fiscal policy means if economy is booming, then the economy is booming, so the revenue will be more. So government expenditure will increase. As the government is having the funds, they will not increase the taxes. But similarly, if the economy is not functioning properly, government will not put the expenditure. Why? Because the government doesn't have the money. Why? Because the economy is not flourishing. But in order to have the revenue, they will be increasing the wages. They will be increasing the taxes. So what will happen? Further the economy will come down. That is called as pro-cyclical fiscal policy. Well, during an economic slump, the government reduces expenditure, increases taxes to improve its revenue, thereby putting higher pressure on the economy and amplifying the slump. That is called as pro-cyclical fiscal policy. Prelims point of view, very important. Pro-cyclical fiscal policy means if economy is good, if economy is boom, then the government will expend, then the government will not increase the taxes. Pro-cyclical fiscal policy means if if the economy is in slump, then the revenue will not be there with the government, so government will not spend, expenditure will be less. So in order to increase the revenue, the government will be increasing the taxes. So there will be more pressure on the economy and it amplifies the slump. So that type of economic policy or fiscal policy is called as pro-cyclical fiscal policy. Whereas counter-cyclical fiscal policy means if economy is slump, then the expenditure will increase and the taxes will reduce. So it will be having a positive impact on the economy. On the other hand, goes in opposite direction to the current mode of the economy. It has a stabilizing effect whereby any boom does not explode and any recession does not grow deeper. For example, during a recession, the government increases expenditure to generate demand in the economy, which is also told by the Keynesian economic principle. When the economy is not functioning, government should improve its expenditure. Then obviously there will be boom on the economy, and reduces the tax to increase the disposable income with the people, thereby stabilizing the state of economy in the medium term. So now also we have to follow the counter-cyclical fiscal policy. When economy in slump, the government expenditure should increase and the tax should be reduced. So the people will be having the money, so the people will be buying, consuming, so the cyclical will be happening and the economy will again come to the boom position. So we need to follow counter-cyclical fiscal policy but not pro-cyclical. Counter-cyclical. Keeping in mind the stabilizing the nature of counter-cyclical fiscal policy, the economic survey prescribes that India should put a greater focus over counter-cyclical fiscal policy. In a country like India, which has a large workforce employed in the informal sector, counter-cyclical fiscal policy becomes even more paramount, very useful. Moreover, counter-cyclical fiscal policy becomes critical during an economic crisis like COVID times. This is a result of the fact that physical multipliers which capture the aggregate return deprived or derived by the economy from an additional rupee of physical spending are significantly greater during economic crisis when compared to economic. For example, in the ancient times, during difficult times like famines and drought, the Indian kings used to build palaces in order to provide employment to the suffering masses and improve the economic fortunes of the private sector. This clearly shows the importance of counter-cyclical economic. The economic survey states that for India in the current scenario, when private consumption, which contributes to 54% of the GDP, is contracting, and investment, which contributes to around 29%, is uncertain, the relevance of counter-cyclical fiscal policy is paramount. So India need to focus on counter-cyclical fiscal policy. Yes, pro-cyclical, recession. Contractionary, government expenditure, taxes, this is not required. Expansionary, government expenditure and taxes should be reduced, yes. Deepens recessions and amplifies expansion, thereby increasing fluctuations in the business cycle. Counters, government expenditure and taxes need to be expansionary. Contractionary, which is not recommended. Government expenditure lesses and taxes increase. Softens the recession and moderates the expansion, thereby decreasing fluctuations in the business cycle. So counter-cyclical is recommended. Debt sustainability metrics. Interest rate growth differentials. The differences between the interest rate and the growth rate in an economy. More negative the IRGD, interest rate growth differentials, more negative the interest rate growth differential, the easier and quicker it is for the government to ensure debt sustainability. As the interest rate growth differential is expected to be negative in the foreseeable future, a fiscal policy that provides an impetus to growth will lead to lower, not higher, debt to GDP ratios, especially given India's growth potential even in the worst case scenarios. So debt to GDP, no problem in the times of economic downturn, debt to GDP can be increased. Higher growth lowers debt to GDP ratios, but lower debt does not necessarily lead to higher. That is what I told in the beginning. A Granger causality test of this relationship for panel of advanced countries and EMIs include India shows that while real GDP growth rate causes general government debt to GDP in EMIs, this relationship is not clearly seen in the advanced countries. Yes. Crowding out effect. The crowding out effect is an economic theory arguing that rising public sector spending drives down or even eliminates private sector spending. Yes. The crowding effect is an economic theory arguing that rising public sector spending, government spending is increasing, then what the private will think, anyhow the government is spending, no, why I have to spend, then the private spending will come down. Lower taxes today by issuing more debt and pay for it using higher future rates. Rehold, re-not hold. Higher private savings, consumption unchanged, aggregate demand unchanged, growth unchanged. Can lower lifetime wealth and thus may decrease consumption and savings, aggregate demand increases, growth decreases. So there should be crowding out effect should be neutral, it should not be more. So government expenditure should not outnumber the private expenditure. The Ricardian equivalence proposition states that forward-looking consumers who are also assumed to be perfectly rational and perfectly capable internalize the government's physical choices when making their consumption choices. People who are rational, they will make their consumption choices, decisions appropriate, which is called as Ricardian equivalence proposition. Structure of India's debt. Structure of India's debt. Yes. Structure of India's debt. A cross-country comparison of debt levels points out the following points for India. The government debt level as a proportion of GDP is equal to the median in the group of G20, OECD countries and in the group of BRICS nations. So important point is prelims point of view. India's overall debt levels as a percent of GDP are the lowest amongst the group of G20 OECD countries and also among the group of BRICS nations. So India's debt compared to its GDP is very lower when compared to the G20, OECD and BRICS nation. That is a good sign. Public debt and overall debt level for India has declined since 2003 and has been stable since 2000. Share of external debt, the government's debt portfolio, which is external in nature, borrowed from outside the country, is only 2.7% of GDP, 5.9% of total central government liabilities. This denotes very low foreign exchange risk. Distribution of debt between the center and the states. Of the total public debt, 70% is held by the center and only 30% by the states. This distribution of debt between the center and states is desirable since the central government is entrusted with the responsibility of macroeconomic management. So, India's debt to GDP is good when compared to other countries. When compared to the central government debt and state government debt, the central government debt is more when compared to the state government debt. So central government's overall macroeconomic management of the country's debt is controllable, good, sustainable, no need to worry, is Economic Survey 2020 and 2021 is saying. Maturity profile of India's public debt. India majorly issues longer tenure bonds for raising funds, which ensures that there is no immediate pressure of returning the principal and paying the interest. This provides a breathing space to projects and helps in generating. Nature of rate of debt. The share of floating rate debt is very low in the overall public debt. Floating debt rate of central government is less than 5% of public debt. This tends to limit rollover risks and insulates the debt portfolio from volatility in interest. So prelims point of view, you can remember only one point. The debt to GDP ratio is very good when compared to the OECD, G20 and BRICS nations. So what are the policy implications? To ensure that the economy remains in good health, to avail the full benefits of these significant reforms, the economic bridge to the medium and long term has to be created. Economic bridge should be there. Over an active fiscal policy, one that recognizes that the risk from doing too little are much more than the risk from doing too much, can ensure that this is an economic bridge. There is a need for an economic bridge. During economic crisis, a well-designed expansionary fiscal policy stance can contribute to better economic outcomes in two ways. First, it can boost potential growth with multi-layer public investment packages that raise productivity. And number two, there is a risk of the Indian economy falling into a low-wage growth trap, as happened in Japan during the last 2 decades. Implementing the national infrastructure pipeline versus front-ended physical spending could generate higher-paying jobs and most product. This is the two things. First thing is we need to have what? Public investment packages. Number two, growth with high wages. Yes, these two things need to be the solution. So the economic survey prescribes an expansionary counter-cyclical fiscal policy to assure growth and lower the debt to GDP ratio. It points out that it is not prudent to be too scared of debt. The survey's effort is just to provide the intellectual anchor for the growth to be more relaxed about debt during the time of economic crisis, such as the one we are witnessing. Once growth picks up in a sustainable manner, it will be the time for physical consolidation. So physical consolidation will be happening when we take such steps like going for counter cyclical fiscal policy and no need to worry about the debt. Why? Because already we are having the lower the debt to GDP ratios. Hence, this is the end of unit 2 of volume 1. So next video will be on unit 3 and unit 4. Thank you.